It's all change, as you can see behind me. And that is the theme of this month's classes, about how to manage change and how to really kind of ground ourselves through yoga to cope with when it feels like the earth's moving beneath us and sort of everything's going. So we're going to start off. I'm going to give you a few different choices. So you can start off as normal, seated or lying, or you can start off in child's pose. So I find child's pose is a really, really grounding pose to use when everything's a bit crazy. And sometimes that's the only pose I end up doing. So I'm going to encourage you to come into one of those poses. So you can come into child's pose if you want. If child's pose doesn't work for you, then you can come into something else. But just settling yourself down. We're going to be here for a few minutes just to kind of get ourselves really, really settled and arriving in our space. So the same as we would do if we were lying on our backs, taking a breath in through the nose and then exhaling through the mouth. And with each exhale, just allowing yourself to completely release into the ground beneath you. And feeling your mat or your floor beneath you. And using this connection with the floor to just really center yourself, letting whatever's happened today or this week or this month or even this year just float away into the ground beneath you, soak away into the ground beneath you with your exhale. And relaxing the shoulders here, shoulders being an area that when there's a lot going on, we can hold our tension. Allowing the shoulders to melt away from each other. Allowing the back to open. And then really focusing on moving the breath into the back as you breathe in. So I've spoken before about how breathing is a 360-degree action into the front, the sides and the back. We're really going to focus on breathing into the back and really using that full space. So drawing the breath in and then exhaling the breath out. And taking a moment to scan yourself through your body, noting any areas that feel perhaps a little bit more tense or in need of anything tonight. And then in a moment we're going to begin to move into our practice, but we're going to come into it from our child's pose. So what you're going to do, if you have come into another pose, then just coming back over into your child's pose, you're going to take an inhale, and then on the exhale, you're going to walk your hands over to the left. So having a really nice stretch through the right side of the body. So perhaps just walking the hands off the mat, and then just releasing the head back down to your mat and really stretching through that right side of the body. So it's kind of like a child's pose, but just sort of slightly off to the left. Really focusing in onto that right shoulder, that right side of the body that's getting that lovely stretch now. And I'm going to take it over to the other side. So on the inhale, walking back to the middle, and then on the exhale, taking it all the way over to the right. And then just releasing yourself back down to the floor and stretching particularly all the way through the left side. And if you want to try and increase that stretch a little bit, you can take the left hand on the top of the right hand and just increase that stretch through the side of the body. And then on the inhale, walking the hands back to the center. And then we're going to do just 2 more stretches, or 1 on each side. You're going to take your left hand and you're going to feed your left hand underneath the right armpit. So still in child's pose, but a slightly twisted child's pose. And you can either keep the right hand stretching out in front of you, or you can take the right hand all the way around the back and just tuck the back of the right hand into the left hip. So a little bit of a twisted child's pose here again, a little bit more stretching into the shoulders. So really just emphasizing this grounding. We're really kind of getting that firm rooting before we begin to challenge our balance a little bit more. And then we're going to take that onto the opposite side. So feeding the left arm out, and then you're going to take the right arm underneath the left armpit, and either stretching the left arm right out in front of you, or taking the left arm behind the back, perhaps even then tucking the back of the left hand into the right hip. So really stretching into that right shoulder, but also opening up through the top as well. Lovely. And then on the inhale, taking all of that out. And then you're just going to walk the hands back and come up to sit. And bringing yourself over onto a comfortable seat, perhaps cross-legged, or if cross-legged doesn't work for you, then coming into a slightly a variation of that. So it's going to be a lot about grounding. So child's pose is really grounding. So we're going to focus on pressing the fingertips into the ground, getting ourselves really settled on the sit bones. And then the inhale, sweeping the arms up, bringing the fingers together, interlacing them. Then you're going to turn the palms away from you and press them up and away, drawing the shoulders down. So we don't want to make earmuffs of the shoulders, but drawing those shoulders down, stretching all the way up through the sides. Breathing in here. And then on the exhale, releasing the right hand down, taking the left arm over the head, stretching through the left side of the body. Rooting the left sit bone down to the ground. The inhale, lifting back up and taking it over to the left side, stretching the right arm over the head. Rooting that right sit bone down to the ground. And on the inhale, coming back up, bringing both arms up, and then releasing them down to the sides. And you're going to take them behind the back. Again, you're going to interlace them the same as you did just then. But this time we're going to draw the shoulder blades together, and you're going to just slightly take the arms away from the back. So we're really opening up through the chest. Lovely. You can look up here if that feels good. To have a nice stretch through the front of the neck. And then releasing the hands forwards, coming into a forward fold. And perhaps a little rock from side to side. And then just playing with that grounding. And then if it feels okay for you, coming forwards and rolling up onto your hands and knees. Coming into tabletop pose. So hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, coming into a very simple cat-cow. So on the inhale, drawing the chest forwards, looking up, and on the exhale, pressing the shoulders open, tucking the head down. Using the pressure of the hands and the knees on the ground, just moving between one and the other with your breath. So exhaling, coming into cat pose. Inhaling, coming into that cow pose. Just really using that pressure against the ground to get that lovely stretch through the spine. So if this is the only pose sequence that you manage to make time for in your week, it is a very, very valuable one, particularly if you're very busy and there's lots going on. Okay, then coming back to tabletop, I'm going to walk the hands slightly forwards, keeping the hips where they are. So stretching the arms out in front of you. And then we're going to come into a sort of the same version as we did with child's pose. You're going to walk the hands slightly over to the left, so still slightly upright. So it's a variation on a pose called puppy pose or melting heart pose. So you're just slightly off to the left, stretching through the right side of the body into the right armpit. Lovely. And then walking back to the centre and taking the hands over to the right side. And again, just sitting the hips a little bit back, not fully into your child's pose, so slightly more upright, slightly more engaged. Walking the hands back to the centre, and coming back up into your tabletop pose. And then we're going to feed the left arm. So we're going to inhale, lift the left arm up to the ceiling, and then you're going to take that left arm under the right shoulder, under the right armpit, and then just stretch it out onto the ground. And you can either keep the right hand pressed down, or you can take it behind the back as you did for the option in child's pose. So sometimes we take the option here to lift the leg, but we're going to keep everything firmly grounded today. So releasing the right hand if you have taken that option, pressing the right hand into the ground, feeding that left arm out, and then switching onto the opposite side. So inhaling, lifting the right arm, and then feeding that right arm underneath the left armpit, and taking the right shoulder down to the ground. And you can either keep the left hand on the ground, or you can take the left arm high in the back and just tucking it around the back. Lovely. And then releasing that, pressing the hands back into the ground. And then you can bring yourself back into your child's pose again, stretching the arms out in front of you. You can either stay here for a few moments more, or you can bring yourself up into your downward dog. So in our downward dog, really focusing on having the fingers nicely spread, nice firm base to push up and draw the hips back. And just walking the feet out, perhaps swinging the hips. Do whatever you need to do to make your downward dog feel comfortable. Maybe downward dog doesn't feel comfortable, but finding ways to get a little bit more ease, find that stretch. And then we're going to take either hands towards the feet or feet towards the hands, coming into a gentle forward fold, bending the knees as much as you need to, perhaps taking the hold of the elbows with the hands, and just taking a little sway and rock from side to side here. And then on the inhale, rolling all the way back up. And rolling through the shoulders. And I'm going to come to the head of our mats. So unfortunately, because of the camera angle, I haven't got quite as much space above me. So hopefully I'm not doing anything crazy with my hands, even if you can't see them. So we're going to come into some half salutations to begin with. So feet together, arms open to the front, drawing yourself up, rolling your shoulders up and back, feeling yourself growing taller through the top of your head. And then on the inhale, sweeping the arms up, looking up. Exhale to fold down. Inhale, halfway, flat back. Exhale to fold down. Inhale, lifting all the way back up. And then exhaling, hands down through the center line. Again, inhaling to lift the arms. Exhale, folding down. Inhale, halfway. Exhale to fold again. Inhale, lifting all the way up. And then exhaling, hands down through the center line. One more together, and you can do two more on your own. So inhaling to lift. Exhaling to fold. Inhaling halfway. Exhale, folding back down. Inhale, lifting all the way back up. And then exhaling down through the center line. So these half salutations are grounding because they establish a rhythm of breathing. So you're going to do 2 more on your own. I will do the actions as well. So if you can't remember what you're doing with them, you can always follow what I'm doing. And we'll meet back in Tadasana when you've finished your 2 rounds of your half salutations. So just taking them slowly, taking them with your breath, finding that rhythm, finding that steadiness. The purpose of the breathing in Vinyasa Yoga is that it creates that distraction from the mind, from everything that's going on. And it allows you to find that steadiness in your poses. So coming back to your Tadasana when you've finished. Okay. Okay, so full salutation. So inhaling to lift the arms, look up. Exhale, folding down. Inhaling halfway. And on the exhale, stepping back with the right leg and dropping the right knee down. Sometimes we come up into our low lunge. We're going to keep the hands rooted, and instead as you inhale, you're going to draw the chest forwards and just find a little bit more space to drop into your lunge. On the exhale, stepping back, coming into either your plank or your modified plank. Inhaling here, and on the exhale, coming down to the floor, knees, chest, chin. And then on the inhale, coming forwards, coming into a little baby cobra, opening through the chest. And then today we're going to come into our child's pose first. Either stay in child's pose or then come from child's pose up into our downward dog. So just adding that extra bit of grounding before we come up, or perhaps choosing to stay in child's pose. That's always an option in your vinyasa sequence if that feels better for your body. It can feel a nice transition. And then on the next inhale, stepping forwards with the right leg, I hope. That was the one I did. And then keeping the hands on the floor once again. On the inhaling, just drawing the chest forwards, dropping a little bit more into your lunge. Exhaling, releasing. Inhaling to lift the left knee. And on the exhale, stepping forwards to fold down. Inhaling, sweeping all the way back up. And exhale, hands down through the center line. Again, inhaling to lift. Exhale, folding down. Inhaling, halfway. Exhaling, stepping back with the left foot. Dropping that left knee down, keeping the hands rooted either side of the foot. On the inhale, just drawing the chest forwards, dropping more into your lunge. Releasing that. Inhaling, lifting the left knee. And then stepping back, coming into either your plank or your modified plank. Inhaling here. And then on the exhale, knees, chest, chin, coming down to the ground. Inhaling, coming through to your cobra. Lovely, drawing the shoulders back. Exhaling, coming back into your child's pose. And then either staying here or coming forwards on the inhale. And then coming up into your downward dog. Just to add a little bit of the sequence. Pressing the fingers, pressing the feet into the ground, really rooting yourself. So downward dog is an inversion. It can feel a little bit ungrounded. So we want to really get that grounding with our fingers and with our toes to create the steadiness that we want. Then on the inhale, looking forwards, stepping forwards with the left, dropping the right knee down. On the inhale, drawing the chest forwards, coming a little bit more into that lunge. Releasing, inhaling to lift the right knee. And then on the exhale, stepping forwards to fold down. Inhale, lifting all the way back up. And then exhaling, releasing the hands down. One more sequence here. So inhaling, lifting the arms. Exhale, folding down. Inhale, coming halfway. Exhale to fold down, stepping back with the left foot, dropping the left knee down. Inhale, drawing the chest forwards, dropping into that lunge on the right leg more. Exhaling, releasing. Inhale, lift the left knee, and then step back, coming into either your modified plank or your plank. Inhaling here. And then exhaling down through knees, chest, chin, or coming down through your little yogi push-up into either your cobra or into your upward dog. Coming back into your child's pose. And then on the inhale, coming forwards or staying there. And then coming up into your downward dog pose. Whichever version you're taking, pressing the fingertips into the ground. Drawing those hips up and back from using that pressure of the finger on the ground. Really digging the toes into the mat. Just feeling that rooting in that ground beneath you. And then on the inhale, stepping forwards with the left, dropping the right knee down. Inhaling to draw the chest forwards, drop more into your lunge. Exhaling to release, inhaling, lifting the right knee, and then stepping forwards on the exhale to fold down. Inhale, lifting all the way back up, and then exhaling, bringing the hands to the center of the chest. And here, just taking a moment to pause, really feeling the feet beneath you. So just perhaps wiggling your toes here, playing a little bit with the balance that you've got. So what we want to really do when we're in these standing poses is to think about the feet having four corners. So the outside of the little toe, the outside of the big toe, and the sort of two edges of the heel. So trying to get that weight evenly balanced between all of those corners. And with that, we feel more grounded, more rooted, and it helps us to move into the balances that we're going to be playing with a little bit this month. So in getting that rooted feeling, we can find the space and the sort of confidence for the balance. So we're going to start off with a little simple balance before we move in. So what we're going to do, so rooting the right foot down, we're just going to lift the left knee up, taking hold of that left knee. So really rooting that right foot down. So balance poses are a really good indication of where your mind is at. So sometimes we have to accept that our mind is not in balance pose territory and we use the support of something. And we're going to inhale, release. And we're going to step that back, coming into our high lunge pose, arms lifted, pressing the feet into the ground. And as with everything with grounding, sometimes if we take a little bit of a wider stance, so separating the feet a little bit on your mat, can just help to get that grounding a little bit more securely. Inhaling, I'm going to open it out, come into warrior two pose, taking the arms out wide. Lovely. And just checking that front knee, just making sure it's nice and safe. So we want to keep the knee back behind the ankle. We don't want to be going over if we're doing that row of stretching. We just want to move the foot a little bit further forwards if that's happening. And inhale, turn the front hand over, and then exhaling, reversing the warrior, taking the left hand down the back of the left leg, stretching the right arm over, breathing into that right side of the body. Inhaling, coming back to your warrior two, and then exhaling, taking right elbow to right knee and stretching the left arm over the head, or perhaps taking it up towards the ceiling. Inhaling, coming back to your warrior two. We're going to switch ourselves around to the front, coming back into that high lunge pose. Breathing in here, and then exhaling, seeing if we can step forwards, coming back into that balance, and then releasing the foot down to the ground. Switching on to the opposite side. So we're going to root the left foot down, lift the right knee up, wobble, wobble, wobble. I'm practicing on much thicker carpet than I'm used to, so I'm still getting my balance on this and having to adjust. As proven there. And then you're going to inhale, release the foot. I'm just really demonstrating this tricky balance. Coming into your high lunge, inhaling here, and then exhaling, you're going to open it out, make it warrior two. Looking at that front knee and just adjusting the front foot if anything about that doesn't feel particularly safe. So also looking at the alignment of the knee in terms of the ankle. So you want to have the knee exactly over the ankle in terms of left to right as well. So just drawing it in if it's going either way. And then inhaling the front hand over, exhaling, reversing the warrior, right hand down the right leg, stretching the left hand over the head. Breathing into that left side. Seeing if there's any more space in the front knee to drop in. Lovely. Inhaling, coming back to your warrior two, and then exhaling, taking left elbow to left knee and stretching the right arm over the head in line with the back leg, or taking the arm up to the ceiling. Lovely. Really nice. Inhaling back to warrior two. And then you're going to take yourself around, coming back into that high lunge pose. Breathing in here. And then coming back into your lifted knee. And then releasing that down. So either taking a half salutation sequence here, or if you wish to take the full salutation sequence, then taking that and all meeting back in Tadasana. So wherever you are this evening, taking that option and taking that choice for where your body is this evening, and perhaps taking that additional child's pose if that works for you. So coming, when you're ready, back into your pose. Isn't that lovely? So then we're going to come into, the sort of ultimate balance. We're just going to turn around just so we can see it a little bit more. We're going to come into tree pose. I'm going to play with a few variations of tree pose. So tree pose is the ultimate one when we talk about grounding and roots. So we want to have a really nice firm base. So you're going to lift up the left foot again, draw it in, pull it into the chest, and then you're going to release the sole of the foot to the inside of the right leg. Now that might be right up at the top, that might be down by the knee, or it might be down by the ankle. But we want to focus on having a really nice firm rooting through that right foot. And you want to try and keep the pelvis facing forwards. So that might mean that your leg is going to be off at a little angle rather than kind of a right angle out to the side. And I'm going to bring the hands into the center of the chest. Focus on that balance. So picking a point on the ground is helpful. It's quite hard to do this pose and be trying to watch what's happening as well. So listening to the instructions as much as you can. I'm hoping, Kate, you haven't fallen over here. You've disappeared off the screen. Oh no, there you are. Excellent. And then from this pose, we're going to see if we can then step ourselves back, coming into that high lunge again. So inhaling, releasing. I'm going to have to turn around in mine as well. And then we're going to step back coming into our high lunge. So stretching the arms up and feeling the difference between that pose when we're taking a balance and then when we are in our sort of firm standing poses, we feel a much greater sense of groundedness. So inhaling here, then you're going to exhale and open out your pose to make it warrior two. So again, nice big stretch out wide, stretching out across the shoulders. And then you're going to inhale, straighten the arms, straighten the front leg, and coming into triangle pose. So stretching the right arm towards the front of your mat, stretch, 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 taking that hand down to your leg, and either stretching the left hand up or taking it perhaps behind the back just to open up through this top shoulder. Lovely. And we want to make sure that we're not turning down towards the floor too much in our desperation to get down to the floor. So perhaps just drawing up out of the pose a little bit, if then that helps you to open up through the chest and the shoulders. So trying to think of your pose as being through kind of two panes of glass. So you want to get that sort of movement across the side. And then inhaling, coming back up to your warrior two pose. You're going to inhale, twist yourself round into your high lunge. You can either just step back into your Tadasana, or if you want a little challenge today, seeing if you can then come back and stand back in your tree pose before releasing down. Lovely. Okay, so coming into our tree pose on the opposite side, this time lifting the right knee up, really rooting that left foot down. And then you're going to take the sole of the right foot into the inside of the left leg. Again, choosing where that's going, perhaps the inside of the ankle, inside of the knee, coming a little bit higher up, and obviously feeling that you can hold on to anything that you need to. Sometimes we need to accept that we need a little bit of support in our grounding, whether that is holding onto a piece of furniture or turning to somebody to talk to them about what's going on, if we're talking in a non-yoga sense. Lovely. Really lovely poses, everyone. I'm going to inhale and see if we can then step that right leg back, coming into your high lunge pose, stretching the arms up, and then opening it out and making it into your warrior two pose. Really firmly rooting the feet down. Inhale, stretching the arms up, straightening the front leg, and then coming into your triangle pose, stretching the left side, so left arm out, 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 and then taking that left hand down to wherever it goes on your left leg, either taking the right arm up or tucking it behind the back. I'm thinking about those two panes of glass, so perhaps just drawing yourself up a little bit, if that then allows you to draw the right shoulder back. Lovely. The triangle pose, not the most, I feel quite awkward, but it's one of those very grounding standing poses. So inhaling to release, coming back into your warrior two pose. Then I'm going to twist ourselves round, coming back to your high lunge, and then either just stepping back to the front of the mat or seeing if you can then bring yourself back into your tree pose for a moment before then releasing the foot down. Either taking a half salutation, perhaps standing here for a moment, or taking a full salutation sequence, just to stretch yourself out between the sequences that we're doing. So the vinyasa sequences just allow you to kind of take that pause, and they're an equal balance of back bends and forward bends, just to stretch everything out. Meeting back in Tadasana when you've run through your sequence. Okay. So we're going to do one more little play with our tree pose. So I'm just going to turn around to the front again so I can show what we're going to do. So obviously you can take any previous version of this. So if you found the previous version of tree pose a little bit unsteady, then you can come back to that. Or if you want to build on and challenge this, build this confidence through balance poses, and when we've got that grounding, you can have a go at this one. So we're going to lift the left foot up, coming back into your tree pose. So getting yourself nice and steady to begin with. Bringing the hands where you are. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to inhale and we're going to lift the arms up above the head. So that obviously shifts the sense of balance. So that might be enough for you. If you want to have another little added challenge, you can bring the left hand down onto the left knee and then stretch yourself over towards the left, stretching into that right side of the body. So it's kind of like a side bending tree. So imagine you're a tree blowing in the wind, or there's a maybe more like one on a Scottish hillside where the wind blows in the same direction all the time, and over the years you've become sort of bent in one direction. Lovely. And inhale back up, and then we'll take that foot back, coming into your high lunge pose. Releasing the hands behind you, clasping the fingers together, and you're going to pull those clasped hands together, opening through the chest, inhaling here, and then on the exhale you're going to release the upper body forwards, imagining that you're laying the upper body down towards the upper thigh, releasing the head down, and then you're going to release the hands down to the ground, or perhaps down to the shin if that feels better for you. And you can either stay here or you can have a little play with drawing the right knee towards straight, not completely locking it out, but just drawing that right knee back, drawing the hips back, straightening the right leg. Lifting back up on the inhale into your high lunge. And then we're going to see if we can come back up, not into the side bending tree, but just lifting ourselves back up into the tree pose with the arms up, and then releasing the hands down. Lovely, very nice. So coming on to the opposite side, so this time really rooting that right foot down, lifting the right leg up, coming into your tree pose. So getting yourself nice and steady to begin with. And then you're going to inhale and lift the arms. That might be enough, or you might feel that you can release the right hand down to the right leg and then stretch yourself over towards the right, taking the left arm above the head. So your Scottish hillside tree, bent through years of buffeting winds. Inhaling to come back up for a moment, and then you're going to take the leg back, coming into that high lunge pose on the opposite side. Inhaling here, and then releasing the hands behind you. If you can remember which way around you clasped the fingers last time, switch them over. It's often the way that feels a little bit odd. Drawing the hands away from you, drawing the shoulders together, opening through the chest. Just releasing the head up, breathing in, and then on the exhale, folding over towards that front thigh, lifting the arms up. And then releasing both arms down towards the ground, perhaps taking the hands onto legs or blocks if you have them. And if you want to, seeing if you can then straighten that front leg, So straightening the left leg, drawing the knee back, drawing the hips back. Lovely. Inhaling, releasing yourself up, back into your high lunge. And then seeing if you can come back into your tree pose, arms lifted. And then releasing down. So we're going to come down to the floor now. So if you want to take a half sequence, half salutation sequence down to that, you can do, or you can take a full one if you wish. But we're going to all meet in seated pose. So however you get there, taking your time and coming down to sit when you're ready. If you are taking the full salutation sequence, perhaps just hopping yourself forwards and then coming into your Dandasana stick pose. So taking your feet out in front of you, pressing the hands into the ground. And if it feels a little bit unsteady for you to do this, if you've got quite tight hamstrings, quite a tight lower back, perhaps just sitting something underneath the sit bones just to tilt the pelvis and make this all feel a little bit more steady. Hands pressing into the ground, breathing in here. I'm going to draw the left knee towards us. And then releasing that knee out to the side. So same kind of concept, a sort of tree pose, but a seated tree pose. We're going to inhale the arms up, and we're going to come into our single-legged forward fold. So stretching the arms forward. And thinking about your pose as a wave. So on the inhale, lengthening through the spine. And on the exhale, finding a little bit more space. Feeling that ground beneath you. So like child's pose, forward folds are really grounding. They obviously literally bring us closer to the ground. And this allows that space and time to reflect what's going on when things are changing around us. Inhaling, walking the legs up, or the hands up, sorry. Taking the left hand onto the left knee. And then you're going to inhale, sweep the right arm up. Exhale, just stretching yourself over. Coming into that. Welcome back, Kate. Inhaling, coming back up. And then stretching both legs out in front of you. Coming onto the opposite side, so drawing the right knee in. And then releasing that right knee out to the side, so coming into your kind of seated tree pose. Inhaling the arms up. Little bend in the knee, perhaps if you have particularly tight hamstrings. And on the exhale, folding forwards, folding down towards the ground. And finding that steadiness of having more support underneath you. As you inhale, drawing the chest forwards. And then on the exhale, finding more space in your fold. Inhaling, walking the hands back up the leg. Taking the right hands onto the right knee. Inhaling the left arm up. And then exhaling, taking that little side bend towards the right. Breathing into the left side of the body. Inhaling to come back up. Lifting that right knee up. Bringing both knees together. Taking a little hug. Tucking the head in. Stretching into the shoulders. going to take both legs out wide, so coming into a seated, wide-legged forward fold. So I find, I think I've said before, less so on this now, I'm on carpet, but if I've got a hard floor beneath me, I like to turn myself sideways on my mat, so I've got something underneath my heels. So we're going to start off just by taking the legs out wide, taking the hands behind you, pressing the fingertips into the ground and drawing the back up. If you feel a little bit unsteady, if you don't feel that you're completely balanced on the sit bones, then sitting on something can be really helpful here, just to get the literal grounding beneath you. Inhaling here. And then exhaling, just taking the hands in front of you and playing with walking the hands forwards. We want to try and keep the spine long, so we don't want to collapse in the spine in our sort of eagerness to get towards the ground. Keeping the toes pulled towards us, so keeping the legs engaged. Just allowing yourself to move towards the ground. Feeling the ground beneath the legs, beneath the sit bones. And then inhaling, walking the hands back up, coming back to seated. And taking one hand underneath both thighs, drawing the legs together. Then we're going to roll ourselves down onto the ground. So from this pose, just taking the hands out, rolling yourself down vertebrae by vertebrae, coming down really, really, really slowly down to lie on your back. And from there, we're going to come into bridge pose. So bending the knees, feet hip distance apart, taking the palms of the hands down on the ground beneath you and just walking the hands down, walking the shoulders away from the ears. And on the inhale, you're going to press the hands and feet into the ground, lifting the hips up, coming up into your bridge pose. So pressing the feet into the ground, pressing the hands into the ground, using that grounding beneath you to really lift the hips up. And then on the exhale, releasing the hips down and just taking the knees from side to side, releasing the lower back a little. We'll take one more of these. So again, pressing the feet and the hands into the ground, lifting yourself up, and either coming back into that same version or perhaps taking the hands together underneath the back. So drawing the hips down, drawing the shoulder blades towards each other, clasping the hands. And then releasing that clasp, moving the shoulders away from each other. And then on the exhale, bringing the hips back down. And then again, just taking the knees from side to side. And then before we come into our Shavasana, we're going to take a short period of time in legs up the wall. So legs up the wall is a really, really good pose for times of change because it is very, very grounding. So finding, it doesn't have to be legs up the wall, it can be legs up the sofa or legs up the bed, but finding somewhere where you can shuffle your hip as close to whatever it is. So I'm going to use the radiator, but sort of water, so Di's using a wardrobe, whatever it is. So shuffling your hip up to it, and then you're just going to turn yourself around so you've got your sit bones against whatever it is that you're taking your legs up, and then just releasing the hands down by your sides, taking the legs up, and just taking this very, very gentle inversion. So inversions usually challenge our sense of grounding. They literally turn us upside down in the way that change can kind of turn things upside down, but legs at the wall is a really kind of gentle way to access that, giving us that sense of different perspective. So perhaps closing your eyes here, just taking that time to stop, pause, reflect. Slowing the breathing down. Taking the space that times of change can sometimes be hard to find. So just taking a few more moments here. And then you might decide to stay here for Shavasana, or you might decide that you want to come down into full Shavasana. So if you are taking that option, just walking the feet down the wall or down whatever it is that you've got them up. And then just rolling yourself over onto your side and getting yourself set up for Shavasana. Perhaps doing any final last poses that you might want before you move into Shavasana. And remembering that your body temperature will fall. So putting a jacket on, putting a blanket on, putting some socks on, making yourself completely warm and comfortable. Perhaps turning the light off, although we're getting to that time of year when even at this time of night it's still very light. In a house that still doesn't have many curtains, I'm quite glad of that, that it's not too dark outside yet. And then when you're there, just taking a breath in and exhale, sighing it out. Just doing that again, so inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Allowing yourself to settle. On each exhale, just releasing into the ground beneath you. So releasing the heels to the ground. Releasing the calves and the backs of the knees. Releasing the back of the upper legs. Releasing the buttocks. Releasing the lower back. Releasing the upper back. Releasing the shoulder blades. Releasing the backs of the arms and the elbows. Releasing the back of the hands. And releasing the back of the head. Feeling the ground beneath you, supporting you, creating that stability for you to rest and be still. Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming, or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. Come writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, and keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin, and there's no telling who that it's naming, for the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changing. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall, for he that gets hurt will be he who is stalled. There's a battle outside and it's raging. It'll soon shake your windows and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changing. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast, the slow one now will be later be fast. As the present now will later be past, the order is rapidly fading, for the first one now will later be last, for the times they are a-changing. So taking an inhale into the body, and exhale, letting it go. And perhaps taking the arms up above the head, stretching through the body. Little wiggles into the fingers and toes. And then perhaps drawing the knees into the chest and taking a little rock from side to side on the spine. And then when you're ready, taking either the left or the right arm up above the head and just rolling over onto that side. Taking a moment to feel that ground beneath you. When we're busy doing things in times of change, we don't have that connection with the floor. So just taking the time to really feel that sense of grounding. And then when you're ready, bringing yourself back up to sit. And then bringing the hands down by the sides. And inhale, sweeping the arms up. And exhale, bringing the hands down through the center line. Thank you very much for your practice this evening and for joining me. And I hope that you feel a greater sense of steadiness and ease to see you through your week. And I will see you next week.